this. Okay, thank you all very much for coming tonight to our Volunteer Leadership Development Series. The first time in person, I believe, in almost a year. And what a wild year it has been. So I'm glad to see a few of you here. Some of you may join online. Hello to those online. And some of you may be watching this at a later date. Anyway, it's fine. Glad to have you guys all here and part of the discussion. Tonight, we are going to start off with our mission of Indiana, 4-H. So our mission is to develop, provide real-life educational opportunities that develop young people who will have a positive impact in their communities and the world. I like to start every meeting with that so we can have that fresh in our minds. And even a year later, with COVID going on, this is still our mission. Things just look a little different now. But we are still trying to live out this mission. Tonight, our objectives are to review our 5-year plan that started in 2019 and kind of got put on hold, as did a lot of things this past year. And then specifically, I want to look at one of our topics, which is called equipping volunteers. That was a need that we established, and some of the areas I want to focus on are technology, training, resources, new volunteers, experienced volunteers, and then recognition and appreciation. And then we'll have time at the very end for Q&A. So this is going to be a little different than some of our typical trainings. It's not going to be me up here just talking. So those of you that are joining us either virtually or in person, I'm hoping to just have a discussion to get you guys thinking, to help us as we move forward with our 5-year plan, what this might look like from a volunteer side. So just to refresh, I'm going to just quickly go over our 5-year plan, kind of where we were, how we got to where we are, and then where we are going. So the basics of our 5-year plan, like I said, it started in 2019. COVID hit, kind of had to hit pause on everything. Up until that point, we had done a lot of research. So you can see a picture here on the screen of National 4-H's strategic plan. They have a vision for 2025. That they would like 10 million youth involved in the 4-H program by 2025. Right now we're sitting at about 6 million. So still kind of, big goals to help fill that, and that strategic plan helps kind of guide our 5-year plan, as well as information from the Indiana Youth Institute. At the tail end of 2019, the Hendricks County Community Foundation also was doing a needs assessment of Hendricks County. So it worked really well. Hendricks County 4-H was able to be a part of that. We were able to sit in on some of those discussions, and so that also helped guide our plan for the next 5 years. So now we're back at it after a brief pause of 2020. And our big question that we came up with, and the group that led this was our expansion and review committee, and so it was a group of people connected to 4-H, not connected to 4-H, adults and youth connected, again, not connected to the program. And we looked at all this research and we found these overarching themes. So my research side came out. I felt like a grad student again, was really excited to be back in that kind of mindset. And we decided we really need a big guiding question. You know, what is it that, like, what's our research question? What is it that we're going after? Excuse me. And the question we established was, how do we make 4-H a relevant organization that is valued in a constantly changing society? And this was in 2019. And so 2020 came around. Obviously, a lot changed in society. And I was able to meet with my expansion review committee probably last September, October, I believe. And I asked, you know, do we need to just scratch this and like start all over? You know, what are you thinking? Are we kind of just done? Like, do we need to stop? And they're like, no, we think if anything, this question is now more important than ever. We're just looking at it now at a different lens, with a different lens in our mind. So our big question was, how do we make 4-H relevant organization that is valued in a constantly changing society? And we found 4 topic areas looking at all of our research. One was diversity, inclusion, and creating a welcoming environment. Another one was having equipped volunteers. And we kind of left that broad because we want volunteers that are going to be able to participate in all of these other areas. So diversity, inclusion, creating that welcoming environment. Increased awareness and develop the value of the 4-H program. We're hoping we're equipping volunteers to be able to do that bullet point as well. And then finally, increasing our community partners and outreach. So really helping people understand what 4-H is and how we can be a partner within the community. Tonight, we're going to talk about that equipped volunteers section. And so that's where I mentioned that this time around is going to be a little different than normal. I'm hoping over the next couple months that at these trainings, this is going to be more of the focus, because volunteers are such a huge part, obviously, of the 4-H program, that we want to hear your thoughts on how this 5-year plan will shape you as a volunteer, will shape our future volunteers, and we want to hear from you what you need. So those of you that are joining in person have a bright green sheet of paper. I'm going to check and see if anybody else has joined us online, and I will pull up a digital version of this to share. But looking ahead, how can we best equip volunteers when it comes to things like technology? What training do you need? Resources that are available. When it comes to new volunteers, you know, think back to when you were first a new volunteer. Some of you, it might be longer than others, but what was that like for you, and what could have made it better? What could have engaged you more? Experienced volunteers. What is it that we can do as a 4-H program to help you want to stay involved, that can keep your passion going? Recognition and appreciation. How can we say thank you? And how do we recognize our volunteers in a world that really is changing to hopefully provide some of that incentive? And then there's just a place for other. So what is it that if you could tell me that you needed X, Y, Z as a volunteer, what would that look like? So I am going to give just a couple minutes to have you guys think through these questions while I pull up a sample online for those that are joining online to look over. There's questions that are prompts, but this is not a quiz. Like, you do not have to answer all of them. You can answer whatever you're comfortable with. And again, this is just to hopefully provide some discussion and insight from my side of things to what it is that you need. So I'll give you guys a couple minutes there, and those that are online, I'm going to pull up another virtual option. So those of you joining online at a later date, or if you are here tonight, I've created a Jamboard, which has questions on it. It's like a big dry erase marker board or a big Post-it note. And you can go in and actually put sticky notes on, so example, and save those and move them around. So that's how you can provide feedback. I will provide a link along with this video so that if you are watching at a later date, you can go back and add to this, and it'll be up for a couple weeks after the actual training. For now, I'm going to pause, and we're going to allow the people that are here to think about some of the questions that are on these boards, and those that are participating online, you can go ahead and add sticky notes if you wish. Thank you.
He's like, I use Jamboard all the time in school. Yeah. If I was still teaching them, I would probably.
Right. So, thanks,
When you get ready,
okay.
I'll take it back.
Okay.
Right one. Just telling you.
So technology training for newbies. So like things that could be used during meetings. Okay. Kenny says access to Zoom accounts to set up Zoom meetings on calendars. Ooh, we're gonna put that, yeah. So that has been, a discussion in our office, because right now we just have limited Zoom accounts, but that has been a discussion. Do we need to get more accounts to allow volunteers to set up their own meetings?
I don't think this COVID thing is gonna go away anytime soon. So I think you're gonna have to invest in the technology, Zoom part, whether it's Zoom or some other format.
And I think too, to your point, Jimmy, it's helpful because some people may have other commitments like back ends around meetings. And having Zoom as an option, even if we are able to go live again,
Right.
I think it's gonna be helpful because people that have, do sports or do choir, band, all these different things where they have other commitments and that's why they can't make it to a meeting. So I think it's gonna be helpful to have different avenues to have those meetings.
I think Diana's right, because we can wind up reaching more people than we've ever reached before using Zoom and having it accessible later. And that was one of my comments on the training part, because one thing we ran into last year in teaching photography, we tried to record and one of the workshops that we had in Zoom, and Scott recorded okay, but it just didn't work out. We tried to play it, we had other people try to play it, and it just didn't work. This is all new to us. We've never run in, I mean, before last year, I've never even heard of Zoom. I thought that had to do with the telephoto lens. But some of these things are really, really, it's all new, especially to, let me put it, our mature age group. And, unfortunately, our mature age group is one that's the leaders. They're trying to help these young kids out, but we need to actually learn what they know, they already know. I mean, they can get on these electronic devices and pull them up quicker than we can.
Case in point, right? 7-year-old, like,
Yeah,
knows how to do all that. Yes.
So but we do need to use the technology more effectively. We're gonna have to really gear up, I think, in the 4-H complex and have a better accessibility to some kind of type of Zoom. If it's not Zoom, it might be Microsoft Teams or some other large format that can handle, an hour-plus meeting. And I know a lot of Zoom accounts, like what I've gotten on the previous one, is very limited on people and it's limited on time.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I'm sure Purdue University has large accounts.
So looking ahead 5 years, because, and obviously a lot can happen in a year, would it be beneficial then to almost have technology maybe be the focus of a training even once a year, whatever the new technology is? This past year Zoom was the hot thing, but.
I think there's only so much that you're going to be able to absorb.
Right.
Because you can't take, it's just like photography too. You can't take a kid, train them all about photography in one session.
Right.
So I think this is going to have to be a not once a year thing. I think you're going to have ongoing classes a little bit at a time, because this is an elephant.
Right. Right.
Yeah, we're
I
gonna have-
cannot eat an elephant at one time.
We're gonna have to be careful though, because the best part of 4-H is developing relationships. That's,
Right.
my meetings do not translate on the Zoom. They are okay. But we get in person, we move around, we form groups, we're active, and that's the essence of my 4-H club. I understand, we're gonna have to use technology, but we can't lose sight and become content with online meetings.
And that's where people meet new friends and make those relationships.
That's what my kids are dying, my 4-H kids, dying to get back, they're Zoom now.
Right.
Well, like, for example, like, I remember some of my fond memories as a child was being a counselor at 4-H camp.
That's the heart of
Like,
4-H.
and actually, the funny thing is, my husband and I both went to the same 4-H camps, didn't really realize it, and met later on, and then we
I've
looked back.
got another thing that's been on my mind I didn't write down, is that, I've got a biased opinion because I'm looking at it from photography point of view. But I actually envision Hendricks County photography being a leadership to the state, to other counties that are not as fortunate as we are. I went outside and taught other counties that, for lack of better terms, geographically poor as compared to our county. And they were overwhelmingly accepted by coming down there and you know, helping, just giving them a one-class training. I mean, it was just unbelievable. There's a lot of counties that don't have the accessibility to a photography leader.
But they're only one of those, that's just the kind of thing we need for online.
That was my point, is if we have, and I'm looking in the future, not tomorrow, is to be able to store, and that was part of my story thing that I brought up here, is to store those Zoom meetings and label them and document them on what exactly they are and the subject and everything, so that in the future, you can make these available not only to our kids in this county, but possibly some other counties and 4-H that are, that don't have that opportunity.
I agree with you, because I'm from Park County, so I grew up in Park County, which is very rural, very livestock focused. I did inside projects and was pretty much in the minority for that. And I can see definitely here, there's a lot more focus on the inside, and it's, judging is so different, like there's a lot of different things that are a lot more children doing it. So I totally see your point, because going from a smaller community to, I'd say this is a much larger community, it's totally different.
So better, I put better documentation of project, workshop / activity to help reach new audiences, or help even outside of Hendricks County as well, be that leader.
And I can even give you an example of Morgan County, not so much that much different in the you know, this Morgan County is, they really don't have a dedicated person to teach photography, for example. And then where my farm is in Crawford County, it's one of the poorest counties in the state of Indiana. And they would dearly die to have somebody come down and teach them photography. But if we have this on Zoom recorded in the future, and we could have them access on some kind of basic, very basic photography to help these kids. Oh my land, look at the amount of knowledge that Hendricks County could share.
And that opens up projects for other counties that may not have access to it, like getting that interest,
Right.
they can enroll in
Well,
those.
youth council is trying, we're actively working on getting a list of workshops. And if they're not there, we're asking people, like I asked you, to do a workshop. And we would get non-4-Hers. Yeah, I would go to a take-up meeting workshop or something. So it can, well, at the summit, they showed workshops that were already going on and how many hits they were getting, 500, 1,000.
Yeah.
I think that would be an awesome resource, and it would be great for club leaders and other project leaders too,
Yeah.
because you know, as a club leader, you guys could say, oh hey, we're going to highlight photography today, and so we're going to show this 5-minute blurb out of an hour series. But if you're into this, like here's an intro or something.
And the
We're
other,
working on it.
there's one other thing that's really been on my mind for years. I've never really said anything, but in the future, and in this 5-year process, I would envision, you're probably going to think this is really crazy, but I would like to see the blending of the projects more
What do you mean
within
by
our
that?
county. And so let me give you an example. I got photography students that are in equine, and I've got photography students that are in rabbits. I would like to see those blend where we actually blend some of our meetings together. So if they have a meeting on rabbits or equine show back here in the arena somewhere, I would like to see photography go in and actually photograph that event. and different events. And I'm
Okay.
sure that you can.
We're gonna stick that as an
somebody
other.
A lot smarter than me can figure out how you can blend horses and rabbits, because they're really different. But these kids, for an example, and I'm having a senior moment here. What's the bottle rocket?
Aerospace.
Pardon?
Aerospace.
Yeah, aerospace. That's another great example of a blending. And so there's different things I think that we could help blend some of these to get the kids more interested. That's just crazy.
That is
thought.
not a crazy idea. I think that's great. And that's what this whole discussion is about, is like, what are the possibilities out there? Because I mean, there's a lot, and obviously 5 years is a lot to tackle, but a year goes fast. And slow at the same time. Thank you for sharing. Nope, I have that up there. I think that's great. Would anybody else like to share? And it doesn't have to be a specific order of the topics. We can jump around.
I said for technology, like, I know you guys did those STEM kits last year. Like, that was kind of like our last meeting before everything went crazy. Our club loved them. Like, it was like an hour and a half meeting. Like, we're like, we gotta go. We have to leave. They loved them. So stuff like on that, like, where we can have these resources where things that we wouldn't normally do are available. So we're already kind of doing it, but I think we can really expand upon it and like they brought like those pens. That was like they love those.
Oh, they do like the 3D pens, yes. So things like STEM kits. So other like grab and go type activities.
And also to kind of like break up the monotony, because I feel like some of the meetings you kind of do this and do this and do this. Something fun to look forward to. Like we're having our meeting tomorrow night. Todd Knowles, who's one of the resource officers on Plains, will talk about safety and stuff. So like we try to bring in some speakers, try to break it up a little bit.
Yeah.
So things like that I think help.
I think electronic newsletter might be valuable with specifics, not generalities, like, here we have this STEM kit. Don't forget, here's a game idea, here's an icebreaker. Have you done this?
For are you talking for volunteers or for 4-Hers?
Volunteers.
Okay.
Need your help. The corporate connection is really, really good. I think, you could aim for leaders. Inspire and inform.
Becky hit on something a while ago that I'd like to reiterate on, is that when this at least gets back to semi-normal, there is no replacement for one-on-one and they're meeting in person. Because last year, when I saw my students for the first time in real life, I mean, we want pictures together. They want their picture with me, is what I'm trying to say. And so, it was really, it was almost like a homecoming type thing. And so a lot of these students, and I reached out to actually get somebody that had only virtually entered and to bring their project in because they got a rather high award. So I couldn't tell them what that was, but I got them to bring their project in. And, because that one out, I was one starfish out of a million probably, but, us as leaders, we've got to look for those, I think we have to look for those opportunities for maybe looking for the student that's a little bit backward, and you can't see that on Zoom. You just can't do it. And so I think the actual meeting physically is really important. So I don't want to give up on that.
And
But I
then
think
training your
we're
club kids, look out for that kind of kid. We're really working on that this year.
I had one student, I won't say his name, but Scott and I just kind of really teamed up together to help this one student. I mean, this has been like 4 or 5 years ago, and we worked with this one student. He was so backward, and his mom, just, I almost said it, and so I would, not that I would pick on him, but I would bring his name out, and I want to know your opinion on it. What do you think? And over a period of 3 or 4 years now, he has really blossomed. And so I guess part of that is I saw myself.
You changed his life.
Yeah.
So,
And that's hard to do. That is hard to do, I will admit, over Zoom. I also agree that I don't think technology and videos is going away anytime soon, but finding that balance, and that's
Yep.
definitely what we want to help do. So,
we can't, in other words, we can't spend so much time being trained on this that you don't sometimes
Right.
train us in the basics. We can't neglect that because I get stopped and you know sometimes.
I do want to just touch on the other topics that we have not talked about so far yet. New volunteers and experienced volunteers. I'm curious, thoughts on how do we engage, how do we help our new volunteers?
I don't know if this is going to be part of that or not, but I had this other crazy idea that I would like to see Ashley come up with a training program just for volunteers. Her, and you're going to think, oh my gosh, what she's getting ready to say. Because Ashley is such a smart lady, and she knows a lot about this technology. And I would like to see her just hold an hour meeting with the volunteers to share with us what's available to us through 4-H office, because that lady, I've learned so much from her over the past couple of years, and she knows a lot on how to help us volunteers and what's available to us. And there's things I think that are available to us that we're not really utilizing.
Mm-hmm. I appreciate you saying that, Kenny. I will be sure to also pass that message on. I think it's.
I don't need to be putting her on the spot.
No, but I think going back to just knowing what's available, you mentioned the STEM kits, and it's been a year, and we really haven't talked about it because that was the last thing, like before COVID hit, that we were just like, okay, we're kind of putting those on the back burner. But as people start meeting again, we need to get in the rhythm of reminding everyone these resources are here and available to you as well.
To your point, Kate, like, as a newer volunteer, that would be great, because I don't know what's all available. We know what we've utilized and what if we have a question, we call in and all that. But I think that's gonna be good for both, the more experienced and the newer that are just getting their feet wet.
So
We're a couple years in now, but we still want to make sure we're telling everybody what's available.
So you're talking about like the newsletter idea. I mean,
Absolutely, that's one thing and I would like to see the office staff in general meet more with the volunteers, because I hardly ever see that. I don't even, know where she fits into all this. And I think there's a lot to offer with the office staff on getting to know them better, getting the volunteers to know them better, to see what our resources are, especially for, like Diana and the good volunteers. But even myself, I don't know everything. It's because I've been around since early.
Well, that way they also know us too, right? Like they know, all of us that are, so
Yeah.
we can be the vice versa, a resource for them if they need something, or be the advocate for them. Yeah.
That's a really good point, because there's definitely, yeah, each staff member has a unique set of talents that they would bring, and a lot of them would be willing to help with a meeting or something too. I've not thought about that. That's,
Well, even just for that, when we think of that, like we talked in our meeting last night, we did like a 5-minute intro,
Right.
like that was awesome, the kids were so excited. Because like, you hear your name, we
Right.
know you, but they don't always know.
right,
So having that person, make that connection.
right,
Even though it was through Zoom, like, I think that really helped.
make the connection. Okay.
I have a couple things on the new volunteers.
Yeah.
Kind of my, so, I think it's, having support from each other, like, I know when we took over, like, we were supposed to have someone kind of help us mentor us, we shouldn't have, but that's okay, we got through it. So like, having people like available for us to go to with questions, because we kind of just ran with it, and everything's worked out fine, I think, for us. There's 3 of us that are all took on at the same time, so we each have our respective duties that we do. I'm more the financial piece, Karen's more the communications, and then Jennifer's more the flower and doing all that. So we all have our tasks. Just having someone there that, bounce ideas off and say, are we doing this right? We're not bothering you all the time.
Reinvent the wheel.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because it's not like we took over when the other ones were still there. We just, they were gone. And obviously Connie, we still reach out to her, but we try not to. We don't want to bother her because she's retired from it. So just having someone to go to for questions.
Mhm.
Or like even right now, with you, I'm like, all my photography kids, I'm like, write your name down. So they know who to go to, because we're gonna call and ask, because we don't know. So just having like that, or even like, sorry, I'm still talking, this
No,
these are
go.
coming to my mind. Like a roster of like, here's the different club leaders, or like the different project leaders, so they know who to go to. Because some of our new members
Worked on it, isn't
don't know who to go to.
That has been an ongoing
it?
struggle, and that is on my long list of I would love to see happen too. So I'm glad to hear it though, that would be useful, and yes.
We have a lot of newer members in our club now. We only have, I think Brandon's our oldest, and he's maybe 9 member, and then after that, it kind of goes down to like 7, and then it's like my kid who's 4. So like, we have a big gap from our older members to our newer group. So they're kind of fresh coming in, a lot of young kids that are still 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders.
Yep.
So,
How many flowers do we have left over from last year?
Did we?
Yeah, do we have
About a trailer full.
that trailer full?
Mhm.
So I have this other crazy idea
I like them.
of something to do with those. And so, we had a program a couple of years ago, maybe 3 years ago, where we came in and we had a work day, and then another one we had where we built birdhouses.
Mhm.
And so I guess one of the 5-year plans I have is to utilize that instead of those geraniums and all that stuff going to waste, is to come up with a plan to utilize those more, the leftovers.
Mhm.
And so I would like to see a group of youth organized to come in and plant them on the property places, or replanting them and the ones, make sure they're in good shape, and even donating them to Sheltering Wings or something like that, which is right near us, or some organization. Even if it's some of the assisted living places around, because I think there's a couple right near here. We may not be able to hit all the assisted living, but even if we hit one, we can make an impact.
that'd be a good project for junior leaders too, to
Yeah.
deliver.
Right. That's what I was just thinking.
Actually, that would be a great junior leader
Yep.
hobby for them to take on.
Mhm.
Well, that's a great idea.
All right, so I want to be aware of time, because I know we've got mini 4-H next and council next as well. Was there anything else new volunteer wise you wanted to share? So my plan is to share this Jamboard and with some basic instructions of how to go in and add sticky notes to it, as well as the video recording for everyone. The goal is to hopefully over these next couple months take these 4 topic areas and just take a deeper look from the volunteer side of things. So I'm hoping we can get the word out and maybe next time have a little more participation. Not that this was not great conversation. This was awesome. But was there anything else before we kind of wrap up that you guys wanted to?
One thing on
Yeah.
training. So I know
Yeah.
we did this training again. I'm going back to my limited, I know leader, but maybe it was a couple years ago, was on like social media or situations that were like on depression and how to recognize that for children.
Yes.
That like really hit home, like having that, especially having a teenager or preteen myself, like just I think ongoing training on all that, because that's also not going away. Mental health, social media, how to recognize children that need additional resources, like all of that stuff, I think is just gonna be pivotal in the next 5 years, because especially in the environment we're in, and then coming out of it again, is gonna be so many things.
That's actually, I need to get that out. There is now open, it's a youth mental health first aid training that is available to volunteers as well. And I believe leaders or council has some funds set aside to help with programs like that. I need to get that out to you guys. Thank you for saying that. But bringing that training here would be beneficial as well. Yeah.
I think we had someone come and do some training on it, and it was like heart-wrenching, sad, but I think it was helpful for all of us to have that perspective.
Yeah. Thank you. Becky, can any of you guys want to add on anything?
Just ditto that I think that's very important.
I would agree.
It just saddens my heart when a teenager takes their life. And we've had that happen in our county.
All right. Well, so we have discussed, just to share, some upcoming volunteer leadership development series, going to be March 16th, which is also in front of a mini 4-H meeting. April 26th, which is in front of a council meeting, and May 13th, which is in front of another meeting, but I don't remember which one. So if you are able to mark those on your calendar, would love to have you guys back. Would love to have anybody that's watching virtually join us as well. As of right now, they will be a hybrid situation as well. So Zoom or in person. Obviously, if numbers fluctuate, our safety plan regulates that we have to fluctuate with that as well. So before we sign off, are there any questions that any of you have here? Any questions that I can help answer? Okay, if not, I'm going to stop sharing, stop my recording, and